Good evening, everyone. I will kind of, take this minute early because a lot of people have already joined in. First and foremost, a very warm welcome to all our eminent panelists on today's very special webinar that we are hosting as Sports for All. It is called She is Gold. Then the three words kind of say it all. What we are trying to kind of convey as a message and share our thoughts about is the power of women and girls in sport today, and the amount of enthusiasm with which women have taken up sport or are now taking up sport is definitely propelling India's journey onto, the global sporting map. And the panel that we have today, is not, they are not just names out there, they are actually doers. They are people within the industry that have really, worked tremendously hard, gone through the systems, gone through the processes to be where they are today, and definitely understand the challenges that sport possesses. Not just to women, but sport in general. Is an industry that is an hard fought one, but each passing year we have been seeing a lot of improvement. I think over the last 5 to 10 years, most definitely, the Indian sporting ecosystem has flourished and is getting better, but it's not happening automatically. There are a lot of people in the background that are actually making it happen, and we have some of them here on our panel today, and it'll be really amazing, to listen to their thoughts and their experiences of their journeys. So I kind of quickly start introducing each one of them. I mean, starting with Mrs. Vita Dani. I not enough to explain the stature that she brings in, the amount of work that she's done. I mean, today also the most successful, owner of a football club, and the only woman co-owner of a football club is amongst us, and that in itself would have been an amazing journey. She also, whilst running a team on one side, she's also running a league by on the other, and also doing grassroots level development of sport. So I feel that, the entire spectrum has been covered when it comes to, ma'am's credentials and the body of work that she's put in. We have on our panel as well is Miss Deepti Bopaya. I mean, Go Sports Foundation. I think everyone knows Go Sport Foundation today, with the amount of impact that they've brought to the lives of athletes, and really that medal tally on the Olympic platform, is something that Go Sports Foundation is working towards so hard in the background, and I think that, that's two amazing bodies of work that we already have, and the kind of experiences that they would have seen in this journey are something that we are all eagerly wanting to listen to. We have Ahana as well on our panel, Miss Ahana Mehrotra, who is one of the very few women sports lawyers of our country, and also over the last 4 or 5 years, with the amount of hard work that she's been putting in behind the building blocks of sound documentation, the policies, the procedures, the anti-doping codes is something that I would really I commend her to be doing that, and I think a lot more of that word needs to be spread across India for sure. We have with us very interesting personality, Miss Diksha Kumar as well, who's is now promoting a sports school, which is the Corvus American Academy, which is an out and out sports school that is coming up close to Karjat, and that's a specialist sports school that is going to be housing 7 disciplines of sport, uh, and and a co-ed school at the same time as well. So I think she brings in a completely different dimension to what it means for girls to actually go into boarding schools, and that to sports boarding schools. So it'd be interesting to listen in from her as well. And we have a very interesting person who's Miss Vaidehi Vaidya. She's starting off to build a body to empower women in sport. I mean, she's also started off very recently, but with the amount of passion and enthusiasm that we've been interacting, I've seen there's a lot of intent in terms of empowering or channelizing or helping girls grow in various departments or various different verticals of sport. So I mean, a very warm welcome to all of you, and I'd like to kind of start off with my first question to kick off this discussion. The overarching objective or theme of this discussion or conversation is, to be able to not just share our thoughts on what we are going to be doing towards empowering women in sport, but trying to be able to come up with very actionable ideas and strategies and plans, so such that they can be executed for us to see that difference in the real world as well, right? So my first question would be to Mrs. Vita Dani, in terms of saying that, ma'am, even before you had a football team, or even before you started the Ultimate Table Tennis League, what I feel was amazing was, you just your interest with sport, or your first experiences with sport, started off as being mother to Mudit. To be able to understand a sports person's psyche, the kind of schedules that a sports person goes through, or a young child kind of goes through when in his development years, is in initial stage, tells us a lot, because I mean, there's a reason why, I believe that because that aspect so closely, is the reason why today CFC is the only women co-owned team that has won 2 titles. Not another person has been able to achieve that feat. And I think somewhere in the subconscious, all of that kind of plays a part when you're trying to run that team. So what is your perspective on that, ma'am? And how do you see yourself and Indian sport and women at large?
So first of all, thank you, Rishikesh. I'm sorry, I'm going to call you just Rishi. I'm not used to calling you Rishikesh. So thanks,
Sure.
Rishi, for these kind words. And really, I'm honored today to be invited to this panel to discuss nurturing female athletes of India across all levels and multiple sports. While you said that, yes, my journey did begin with Mudit. That's my son, who's a national level table tennis player. I would say, I think all this goes back to many, many decades. And if you go back to our scriptures, there's mention of Nari Shakti. Like, there are many goddesses which are shown with multiple hands. And I don't think it has any religious connotation, but for me, it depicts power and strength. And if you translate that to today's time, I would call it simply multitasking. And that's what every woman does by default. Whether they are working at home or they are working outside. It's just that some are recognized more and are paid. The rest of them are still working. So for me, that's more important than anything else. And here I would also like to, commend the stellar work that is being done by Sports for All, as an organization, specifically appreciating the focus on bringing attention to the subject of equality and equal opportunity in sports. And I think that's most important. Today, if you see girls, they are more interested in really proving to the world what they are all about. And that's why they want to excel, whether it is sports or it's any other field. And parents are encouraging the same. So I think it's a step in the right direction. Like, even if yesterday there was an announcement made by the sports minister, it said that sports is now going to be part of the curriculum.
Yes.
So that's what it's all about. When there is an exposure at an early age, then people are going to do well. Sportsmen are going to flourish. I mean, a country of billion people, and are we saying that we don't have medal winners? Are we saying that we are not capable of, achieving so? I don't believe that. So it's a question of creating an opportunity, creating a platform, and, where all the sports person can flourish. That's what it's all about.
True. Yeah. I think as administrators, as individuals, we have that responsibility towards providing that most amazing environment, and an environment that can attract the kids and women to sport. rather than just forcing them to play sport or playing sport for reason. So I think that's amazing. I mean, just the way today's women are getting attracted to different forms of art or dance or anything of that sort. I think sport in itself has to become attractive, and as you rightly said, right, that we can create those platforms. The Nari Shakti already exists. They just need to unleash themselves as soon as they can. So I mean, that's some fantastic views coming from you. I mean, I take the second question up to to kind of open up this conversation. I take it to Deepthi. Deepthi, who's representing Go Sports Foundation and is also the executive director of Go Sports Foundation. Interestingly, comes from a banking background. Her past life has been as a banker, and to make that transformation, or that to transcend from banking to sport, how's that been for you, Deepthi? And take us through that journey, because even banking and finance, I'm sure, wouldn't have been as easy as as
Great.
what sport is.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a real honor to be with all these incredible women who are doing some stellar work. And also, Rishi, thank you for getting us all together and talking about this important aspect. For me personally, I think growing up, I come from Coorg, so all we know is to be part of the forces or play sport. We're not really that good in studies. So it was all sport, and more sport. So I ended up playing a lot of sport up to the state level, but had this dream of winning an Olympic medal, which clearly didn't happen because you're not so great, and it takes such effort and dedication to really become even an Olympian. Forget a medal, just becoming an Olympian is, I think, a great journey. But coming from a family who my parents always encouraged us to just play sport because of the power of sport and the values that you learn in sport. It was not really from the achievement side of it, but just all life skills that you learn. I think we all would agree that whoever has played sport handles life much better.
Much better, yes, absolutely.
So I think from there, my journey really went into the education side of it, and I finished my MBA from Pune in Symbiosis, and then just campus placements into HSBC, and I really learned a lot and enjoyed my stint as a banker. But somewhere at the back of my mind, I wanted to come back to sport. I used to be in a lot of conversations where people were always talking about how as a country we can't win medals and we don't have the potential, and that would really annoy me, and I would be fighting with a lot of people saying, what rubbish, if you're doing well in all other areas, I'm sure we can do well in sport. There's no reason why we can't really excel. So that's when I came across Go Sports through one of our trustees who was also playing sport in the past, and I'm playing tennis, and I played tennis and basketball as well for my university. So I always enjoyed playing sport, and I wanted a job where I was thoroughly passionate and I didn't have to you didn't feel like it was work. And so when I came across those sports, and I think it was a difficult transition 8 years back. Today you see a lot of people openly taking up sports management itself directly. And they're very confident that they have careers out there. But at that point of time, it was a little bit of a difficult decision. Things worked out for me, I would say. So it's a lovely story now to say, oh, it was a beautiful transition. But if it did not, then obviously. I think every single day in the last 8 years of me being in Go Sports has taught me a new lesson, has made me meet some incredible people, and just to see how far Indian sport has come in the last 8 years, because of all the efforts of various stakeholders, everyone coming together, everyone talking to each other, and seeing results. Maybe not medals, but just even if you look at your participation, every 4 years you've seen more number of people getting qualified for an Olympics or at an Asian Games or a Commonwealth. I think these are all results of various stakeholders who've actually done that. So it's been, that was really my little journey at that point of time. And I think when you say sport and careers in sport, I'm just touching upon that. Sports administration there was really no concept of sports administration.
Yes.
And very very few women. I think it's great to have people like Vita ma'am and all, who've done a lot of things, and who kind of set the
Yeah.
path ahead of you. So there's so much
Yeah.
to look forward to. But
Yes.
there's no ready script on sports administration as such.
Yes.
Whether you're male or female doesn't matter.
Matter.
You're
Yeah.
really learning on the job of how to really run an organization. So a large part of my banking, skills helped me,
Yes.
just in terms of managing money. We're a trust, we're a foundation.
Correct.
So everybody wants to know how you're spending the money and who's the beneficiary. I think that's the bottom aspect of
Yes.
any social impact organization. So I think
Yes.
whatever I learned in the bank obviously helped me. And our managing trustee is also a lawyer. So I think
Yes.
the legal side and the finance side
She'll help
combined
me.
really well. And
Yeah.
last year
Yeah.
we actually won the national award by the
Wow.
President of India. So in some sense, for us,
Wow.
it was a passion project getting nationally recognized. I mean, that was
Yes.
not something we started out to do, but just getting that recognition and saying that you identifying and nurturing talent is very important to the
But
country. So you realize, okay, you're doing
yeah,
some
good.
good
Yes.
work.
Yes. That validation. That validation is always so important, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you touched upon two very, very interesting words. I would say that we are already making progress. That is what we need to know. India needs to know. The world needs to know that yes, we may not have reached that place where we can have enough medals on global platforms yet, but I think we are heading in the right direction. Also, given the fact that India got its independence much later than most of the other countries did, right? And the way we've kind of covered up every time India takes up something, right? Say when we took up digital, when the Prime Minister or when India said that we have to make a digital transformation in 15 years, I mean, today we are at a place where we are amongst the top 3 in the world, and that credit goes to some amazing stakeholders out there. I mean, can't possibly miss out on those. And I think sport as an agenda has also now in the hands of some very noble people who have the right intent, right? And that is that starting point. And as you rightly said, right, that has started to happen. So the ball has started to roll. It's so that was important. And the second thing that you brought up, right, was the passion. You said it was a passion project. You say Go Sports Foundation was a passion project, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think if that passion is not backed with persistence, passion holds no meaning. And
Absolutely.
over.
I think that goes for any sector. If you can
Yes.
be very passionate, but if you don't find the funding and you don't find the
The.
process to put in
Yes.
place, it just stays as a
Yes.
passion and doesn't really come out. So I
Yes.
think it all worked out. And I think,
Yes.
like you rightly said, different stakeholders, whether it was the government, whether it was something in terms of creation of a target Olympic podium scheme. You have other organizations like Olympic Gold Quest or JSW. Everyone has pitched in different ways, and
Please.
has taken sport forward, Indian sport forward.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
joint
So
effort.
yes, absolutely. I think, and that's really what is the story behind India. And I think, and that's what I mean, an interesting stat that I came across was that saying that participation in sport by women is actually growing. So say for example in the US, if it's about 40%, 42% of females participating in sport, but the media coverage in the US itself is only 4% for women participating in sport. Whereas in India, we have about 29% women now participating in sport. Say up to 1972, that was close to 3% or 4%. So that paradigm shift, is happening. And as Vitaben rightly said, that now there are parents that are encouraging their kids to go out there and play. There are schools that are encouraging their kids to go out and play. Our Prime Minister is encouraging everybody to go out and play. So I think all of those voices are giving people a lot of confidence. And as as Deepti rightly said, that someone who's played sport will definitely have a better perspective, more confidence in everything else that they do. So I think women out there, I mean, have some tremendous opportunities. It's about them also capitalizing on those opportunities. And I think that takes me to Ahana to ask, her perspective on why did she take up law in sport of all the other. So I think she was a cricketer herself. She played national level cricket as in school, and I think that was her journey. So Ahana, if you can take us through, everything that.
Before I
Yeah.
take you through my journey, I'm going to counter question you and step into the shoes of a moderator. Tell me what got you to tell me what got you to trust a woman sports lawyer 4 years ago, random query on LinkedIn, because it's good to have a man's perspective, because given that a lot of, people, when I have walked into rooms back in the day, this was when I started out about 7 to 8 years ago, I often got this reaction that what's a woman doing in sport? So of course, I mean, the fact that I played cricket, I understand sport. And I think that's what the key is, that you have to understand the business of sport. You have to understand the rules of the game before you can actually go out there and be efficient at what you do in sport, be it as a lawyer, be it as an administrator. So even today, I mean, the world is sitting and contemplating force majeure clauses, right? So today, the counter query I get while negotiating contract is that if one player dies, I want to be able to enforce force majeure. The fact that I know that in a cricket team or a football team, I have 5 substitutes available to me and I can throw it back at their face, they understand that, okay, yeah, she's making sense. She understands what she's talking. So before I take you through my journey, you tell me what got you to trust a woman in sports
The
law.
same persistence, right? The persistence, the conviction, the passion with which you wanted to get things done, the passion with which you spoke about any subject, even, and saying that why can't this happen? Or I think that backed with the knowledge that you brought in, I think was, and I saw more than anything else, I saw the guts, out there to say that, because I'm also full of guts only, nothing else. But so I saw that, and that was it. And it's been 5 years that we've done a lot of work together, and I think we're still going through hard times. And but that whole challenge, of overcoming every obstacle that you're going to face, not knowing what is coming your way when at what corner, are the qualities that matter. And it was not about a woman or a man or anything of that sort. For me, at least, I wanted someone who had that whom I could trust, number one, and have the faith that, okay, everything that she's going to be working on is going to be the right advice. So yes, those were 4 or 5 of the qualities that I saw. I myself was new, starting off a business 5 years ago. So yes, I think that's what it was. So yes, I kind of move on to
No, I'll just take you through,
yeah.
how
Yes, your
I do
journey.
what I do and why I do what I do. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean Diksha would be able to throw more light after this on this. But I went to boarding school as well, and it was sport concentration on sports back in school. I went to Mayo. Was it was more of a compulsion than people who didn't even enjoy sports. Of course, I went from a background where my father always encouraged me to play sports. So, boarding school just allowed me to sort of balance my time better. But I don't think I had ever thought about pursuing sport professionally until I actually made it to a certain level, to be honest. Cricket happened out of the blue. I started playing cricket only when I was 12. I used to play lawn tennis before that. In fact, when I was playing my last nationals, we had lost against Haryana and Andhra Pradesh both very badly. I was 2 months away from my board exam, so I didn't even stay for the closing ceremony, and I came back home because I wanted to sit and prepare for my board exams. And next thing I knew that I got a call saying you've been chosen for the Indian 19 team.
Wow.
So I was kind of, but obviously at that point in time, women's cricket was not even under BCCI back in 2005, 2006. Women's cricket only came under BCCI in 2008. So that point in time, cricket didn't seem like a worthy pursuit. I had decided very young in life. I think I was in class 5, and I decided that I want to do law, and I don't think that ever changed. So the whole idea was then when I got to law school. I mean, of course, first of course, I was extremely. I mean, not like I did amazingly well in my boards. 85% wasn't amazing at the time that I graduated from class 12. I still wasn't getting admission anywhere. So I thought, okay, sports quota, I should get admission. But most places I went to get admission in sports quota, they said, we don't have a girls cricket team. So you're not eligible to apply under sports quota. So anyways, I thankfully made it to Pune Law School. And there itself, the first, intra-college sports tournament took place, and I went to the college representative and I said, listen, can I please play on the boys team because there's no women's cricket match happening? And he made fun of me. He said, you know that we play with a leather ball. I said, you know that I got chosen to play at India under 19. That was our debate. So what he was nice enough to organize a women's cricket match. And that's when I said, no, I need to sort of marry my vocation with my passion. And that's when the idea of, specializing in sports law came about. So I don't think then it mattered whether, I was a woman going to do it. It was just about me wanting to pursue my passion, marry my vocation, and then one thing just led to another.
Yes. Do you think, Ahana, that everything that people have spoken about, that is it more of saying that, women are always welcome in every field, even in sports, so even in maybe in governing bodies or even in places. So I want that answer to say that, okay, is there like a door that is closing, or the doors are open but more women are not coming out or not feeling that they can also do it? Is what is that? I mean, just want to understand it. Anyone
I
can,
think it's
Vita
what
is
you
also
said,
smiling,
right?
so
It's what you said, right? It's about being passionate. I mean, I have two people here, which is Vita ma'am and you. When I was starting out in Bombay 3 years ago in 2017, I decided to move away from a firm and set up on my own. You guys were the biggest supporters that I had, who were willing to trust my, passion for the subject, my knowledge, and the fact that I would give whatever it takes to get, secure your interests or whatever. I think just trusting somebody is what really matters. And I think the general approach is that if you can really convince someone that you believe in what you're doing, you can make people believe in you. I think that's what matters. I don't think it's a gender thing, so to speak.
Yeah, but do you think correct, it's not from that perspective not a gender thing? I completely agree, but so these numbers are pretty skewed, saying that if women participation is going up each passing year globally and even in India, but the amount of media coverage that women in sport are getting, right, in general as athletes or as administrators, is actually on the decline. So I don't know where that disparity is. It's only about 3.5% of total sports media coverage that women get. So Vita, if you would like to throw some light on that, maybe you're more close to that side of things.
Well, I live in a world where I think I lead about 30, 40 men at a time.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at football, sometimes I'm the only woman in the whole team. Actually, I feel great, that all these guys are listening to me. I feel even more empowered. But if you look at the current context, you look at the women leader and how they have done in times of Corona. And everybody, the whole world appreciates that women leader have done better. So I don't think there's any debate over here. I think we are just doing good. It's just a question of belief. You got to just, when I started in the world of sports, I don't think I had any idea, especially football. I had no clue what football was all about. I learned. And I think within a month or two, I was on top of it. So it's just how you look, it depends on your perspective in life. I don't see there's any challenge. More women, I'm sure, will come out. I mean, if you look at Deepti, Diksha, Ahana, Vaidehi, all of them are doing great jobs. So why should anybody feel that way? I don't understand that.
Yep, that's true. I mean, that kind of moves me to whether you got your answer right there, right? That the world is open for you, and everything that you are going to try and do with your platform of empowering women in sport, you've already got that support. So what is your take on how was your journey, as a taekwondo player, that you started off playing taekwondo for almost 7 years, and then being a part of some football clubs as well, and now starting women empowerment. So there must have been something that would have, in your journey, before starting Women in Sport, which would have told you that, okay, I want to kind of, channelize all my energies or dedicate my life towards empowering women in sport? So what was that? If you can.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one thing that I would like to emphasize on, what I'm trying to do is, yes, empower women, but in a way that makes them financially stable, or make sure that they are independent of anything or anyone. Because I was part of a program very recently, and there was a woman who came there, and she was from a very, very small town, and she didn't know how to start her business, but she did. And one of the people attending the program asked her what was important about earning money. And the one thing which touched my heart was, she said, people listen to you when you are financially independent. Okay, so same case is true for women working in sports. It's very important to make sure that they are financially independent, and that's what I'm trying to do. As for my journey, it's very similar to Dipti. When I started, there was nobody who was even playing any kind of sports. My mom was, I was lucky that I had someone like her who took me to taekwondo, who made sure that I know how to swim, you know. So these small things, small gestures, exposed me to sports in general. And being a professional player was not ever in my mind, because I had no role models around me to see and say that, okay, I want to be like her, you know, which is, now it's a very different case. We see PV Sindhu, we see Saina Nehwal, we see Sania Mirza, we see Sakshi Malik and Fogart sisters. These are brilliant role models for young girls now. So that wasn't the case for me. And when I started playing, first it was taekwondo, of course. And as I entered my 11th, 12th and engineering, I kind of shifted from taekwondo to football, because I remember in my college, there was a boys team, and there were actually two to three boys teams, A, B, C, and there was no girls team. And I wanted to play football because it sounded like a very, very interesting game. And the unfortunate part was I couldn't, because there was no girls team at my university and my college. So then I started playing with the boys team. But the issue was that you could not participate in university games or different tournaments happening around the city at that point of time, because obviously you can't play with the boys team. So I decided to start a girls team for my college. And that entire journey kind of led me to the decision of making a career in sports, because it absolutely appealed me that I can be connected to the ground, and I can see players playing every day, and I can make sure that these players actually go ahead and do something phenomenal in their later life, right? So that entire picture and imagination kind of fascinated me. So I decided to opt for sports career. And obviously I didn't want to do the usual 9 to 5. I kind of found it to be very boring, you know, going to office every day, doing the desk job. And sports kind of gave me that opportunity to explore different faculties. So yeah, I mean, that's what led me here. And yeah, so that's my short story. Not
good luck.
Not very different, actually, I would say, but yeah.
Yes, good luck. But Deepti, I kind of want to ask you one question, that you deal with all of these elite athletes who are representing India, are already stalwarts in their space, and you kind of deal with both, right, the men and the women. And how do you see the psychology differences? How do you see both of them approaching their sport, or their the way they go about doing their things? Is there any differences that you kind of see as from that perspective? It'd be nice to kind of throw some light.
So I think for men and women, irrespective of what sport they choose, it also a lot to do is with the background they come from, right? What is the depends on what access they have to sport. Typically, if you look at grassroots sports in remote areas, a large part of them, the time female athletes hit their maturity and start getting their periods, they drop out of sport because there is no basic awareness on how to manage that, or there's no safe spaces and toilets. And this is not just rural areas but across. So a lot of reports that you'll read, the primary reason of women dropping out of sport is really basic things, which is very much necessary. But I think the athletes that we work with have already fought the system with their parents and fought with everyone and made it to the national level. So we're really attempting to say that, okay, now that you've got here and you're super talented, let's try and work with you and take you to the next level. And whatever your potential is, it could be the Asian Games, it could be the Commonwealth, and ultimately the Olympics. We also work with about 49 differently abled athletes in the para space. And I think challenges there are added on to basic female challenges. There's also mobility and disability challenges. But I think, it's very inspiring and humbling to see how they've worked around it, and and I think Vaidehi touched upon the point of being role models. Just see how sport has changed in the last 4 years, because today you say, I want to become a PV Sindhu, I want to become a Deepa Karmakar, I want to become a fencer, I want to become a badminton player, because you're seeing all these people, coming from different backgrounds, middle class families, humble backgrounds, elite backgrounds, Aditi, all of them, but they're able to do so much and take it forward. So I think if you look at all these people, all these female athlete ecosystems, or even any athlete ecosystem, again, I'm not getting gender into it, but if you see the ecosystem, there's a very tight set of people and team who work around the athlete. There's a trusted community who supports them. Today there are organizations like us, but back in the day, it used to be coaches, who's their father, mother, coach, parent, everything, in terms of that. So I think you've changed now, and there are roles and jobs and different aspects that have come in. But I genuinely believe that female athletes are highly motivated. That motivation comes out of very different things. At least the stories that athlete journeys that we work with, like some of the athletes had to deal with the bullying every time they would go to the thing. So they wanted to prove a point, and then they said, I will become a national champion, I will win a medal and come back. So there are different reasons, I think, of motivation, but I think it's not fair, like in any area, to generalize these reasons, but touch upon it and say that different things motivate people.
Yes, you can't generalize one story, right? I mean, that's so true. And when you brought up this point, a very interesting point, saying that athletes have a support system around them, and that really takes them forward, takes them to the next level. And their support system initially was family. Now the professional athletes do have their support staff around them, which is also like a close-knit family to them, right? They trust them, they follow every word of theirs and things like that. And that kind of brings me to an interesting point. One of our listeners has asked the question to Vita Ben, saying that when is it that men's teams are going to see female physios and female trainers be accepted? And I said that, wow, support staff, at the same time this disparity. So I said that I would like to take your what do you think about it?
So if you look at my experience in football, when we started year one, I think I was the only woman around. Today we are about 4 or 5 of us, which is, I think, a good start. If you look at table tennis, we started the league with a primary prereq, I would say, that we will have equal representation of men and women. Okay. And even if you see today, they have to participate in X number of games, so that they are just not there for namesake, but they're actually there. They're actually participating in the games. Okay. So I think it's only improving by the year. More women are coming forth. If you look at some of the nutritionists, they are also women. Some of the physios. So there are women, I think, who are now venturing out and are involved in many sectors across sports. So it's
Yes.
only a plus. And I also wanted to
Yeah.
say one more thing what Vaidehi said. She spoke about mothers' involvement. We are talking about girl
Huge.
empowerment, but nobody ever
Huge.
realizes the sacrifice that a mother makes for
Mm.
the child, be it a girl or a boy. She drop
Yes.
everything and accompany them for all tournaments, for all sorts
Yes.
of events. And
Yes.
it's not a
Absolutely.
small sacrifice. So that has been coming for years now. It's
Yeah.
just today that we acknowledge these
Knowledge it.
things.
Correct. True.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 It's amazing. I mean, that brings me to my next question, which is, coming to Diksha. Diksha, now that you are just about, on the verge of starting your school, you must be going through this entire admission process and talking to a lot of parents, not just kids. So what is your experience been doing that, and also take us through a little bit of, how Corvus Academy kind of, from an idea became a reality. What was it behind that? I also know that your husband is a national level basketball player, and he is one of the reasons. But your involvement and how so you act as the CFO of the organization. So what is that journey, and how are you finding?
So I want to
Yeah.
start off by saying that thanks for having me, and I've already learned a lot from this panel, and I think it's really important to have conversations like this because the youth that is listening hears about opportunities that have been taken to fruition, be it Ahana's story, Dipti's story, of course, all the stuff that Mrs. Dani is doing, Vaidehi's stories. It shows the youth how you can still be part of sport even in different career wise in different aspects of it. So this is a very interesting conversation. So coming back to Corvus, let me just give you a little bit of background. So I come from a highly academic background in the sense that growing up I was very I knew I wanted to become an engineer. Even in technology, women aren't as majorly a part of in that day, but now it's growing. But I was also a very restless kid. I probably tried my hand at each and every sport. But then, like we've already discussed, there came a time when, around grade 8 and 9, you have to make a choice. And, when I went through that, after that, I did my master's, I went abroad, I worked in finance, similar to Dipti. I worked in ops and strategy in the telecom environment. And I would come to India, and what really stood out to me was that while there was growth in a lot of aspects in sport, at a schooling and at a grassroots level, there wasn't as much change like I would like to have seen. So, for example, a lot of our panelists mentioned that a lot of them played sport, they played cricket, football, but an issue which I faced growing up as well was there weren't girls' teams for the sport I wanted to play. There wasn't enough opportunity or exposure or importance given. So, seeing that, that's what made us want to start Corvus American Academy. And the premise behind that is that one cannot exist without the other.
Yes.
When parents think about their kids, what they want to do is make sure they're set up for life. So we understand where parents are coming from as well. One cannot exist without the other. And it's not
Yes.
very difficult to balance academic and sport if the children and the parents and the families are given the right ecosystem to do.
System.
So that's
Correct.
the main premise of Corvus, where we said that we're going to have an international curriculum which is at par and as good as any curriculum out there. We're going to make it residential, like Anna mentioned, which allows them to balance it, gives them enough time, and we're going to have the best sports curriculum that we can have. So that's what made us start it. I also want to talk about what some of the panelists actually brought up. So I think, like Mrs. Dani has mentioned, and all the people that are doing great work, viewership and televisation of sport has increased. We've always had women role models. We've seen a generation of women, even sing sisters in team sports. If you think about Asha Lata Devi, we've had great representation, but now with the viewership and people wanting to see televised sport more than before, there is that growth spectrum that we're seeing on the landscape of sport. So at a grassroots level, it's almost our responsibility to make sure that we're developing those athletes, and to the point that a lot of you guys made is they shouldn't quit. There should
Yeah.
never be a situation where they're like, this is too difficult.
Yeah.
Be it at whatever level, we need to make sure that the kids who love sport continue to play sport.
Play sport.
Even if they
Correct.
become a doctor or an engineer, or whatever they may become, it is
Yeah.
our duty to give them that opportunity and that skill set to achieve whatever they want.
Sure.
So I think it's important to do that. So with that in mind, infrastructure in schools is very limited. So, when you think about it, right, even if you in some cases have a girls team, you have to almost fight for time of the coaches, time of the facility, who gets priority. So we've taken all of that into account and said, what, the coaches are going to be hired based on the fact that they understand that this is the premise, and they give equal opportunity, equal time to girls and boys teams. And they're very clear that that's what our aim is when we develop the program. We make sure
Correct.
the structure is specific to each sport. So you can't have one ground for running and playing football and basketball, because then you have like 5 different teams competing for time on that facility.
Right.
That was the second major
Yeah.
point. We made sure that you have the infrastructure specific to sport, to give them that time and opportunity to learn techniques, etc.
There'll be more Ahanas now because there will be women's sports teams in schools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the last most important thing is to educate the parents. The parents are, of course, a wonderful support system to all kids. But I think it's important as Indians, for us to understand that, as we have seen growth and just the opening up of opportunities in, corporate and career paths in India and abroad, your kid can be anything. He can be she or he can be a sports lawyer, can get into sports management, get into sports business. They can do anything. So, the sky's the limit. So it doesn't mean that your career opportunities or your final destination needs to get altered because somebody chose to play football or somebody chose to play table tennis or whatever that may be. So I think these are the 2 or 3 points that we focused on. And of course, security for girls is a huge thing. So, in a boarding environment, we have to make sure that everybody's secure. They have women chaperones when they're traveling for competitions so that parents don't worry. Logistics are taken care of.
Right.
They have a safe environment to, talk in, like Dipti mentioned, that, they feel safe enough to talk about their problems. They have a ecosystem of girls across different sports, which allows them to feel comfortable and confident and increases their self-esteem.
That's a very important point that you touch upon because, it's almost 9% lesser women travel for sport than males. So that I think that's a very important aspect that you are going to be covering because that security, the safety, and the mental peace, right, more than anything else, will matter big time when women kind of have, and sport is something that you have to. The best in you comes out of exposure. So the more you travel, the more places you visit, the more forums that you play in and interact with is definitely something that is going to build you as an individual, right? So I think very, very interesting points and some amazing stuff that's happening right around us. We've got all our systems set. I mean, we've got platforms out there. We've got lawyers to take care of the platforms. We've got schools to enable this. We've got people like Deepti and Go Sports Foundation that are, nurturing those athletes. So I think we've, I think more than anything else, I'm feeling motivated now that, okay, there is so much good that is happening around us. And there's a reason why she is gold, right? So in fact, one thing that, a very important thing was that from 1900s, straight from 1900s, India has been sending its contingent to the Olympics and there have been women. But it's only in 2000, that's exactly 100 years later, that we won our first medal. A woman first won our medal in 2000, which was Karnam Malleshwari. And from that point, ever since that first medal was won, we've seen that, over the last 20 years or the 4 Olympics, we've always seen women excelling and doing India proud at that stage. I mean, in fact, Deepti was present at the Rio Olympics as well. So Deepti, what are your experiences out of there where you've seen a diverse sections of athletes, not just gender specific, but from different countries, different ethnicities. So how was that experience, of the Rio Olympics?
Actually, I was there for the Rio Paralympics.
Paralympics,
It happened
yes.
3 weeks
yes.
after the Olympics.
Yes.
And we actually run a program called the Para Champions program for differently abled athletes. Because if you see India's tally at the Paralympics, it's very, very low because there is no real support system and structure that has been in place. So over the last 8 years, we've always supported para athletes, but we decided to have a separate program. So just in a span of 4-year cycle, we actually ended up having 19 athletes who qualified from India for the Rio Paralympics,
Wow.
and 11 out of them was supported, through the foundation.
Wow.
And I had the wonderful opportunity of seeing all the medals and hearing the national anthem twice,
Yes.
for Mariappan and for Devendra. So I think those are some of those amazing moments that you'll never forget. But what is also interesting to note is a country with similar amount of population like us, China, had 325 odd people in the contingent, and obviously they won many more medals. So we were 19. So you can see the difference in terms of just participation, right? And there were only 3 women in that 19 as well. So I think we're able to see change where there is consistent
effort, correct,
and consistent systems put in place. I mean, every person on this panel is talking about process, system, multitasking, and bringing in that aspect of it. So I think gender, even at an Olympic IOC level, at the Olympic Solidarity Program is what it's called. Even over there is a complete committee that works on encouraging and getting more women to participate, because this is not an India thing, because a lot of people feel in India it's low. It is a global issue, and whether it's space structure, whether it's participation, I think it's a global issue, and we have to tackle it at that level. But from an India context, I think there are lots of role models today in every sphere. If you look at doctors or lawyers or now administrators and whoever there are, you have people to look up to, and you have a path that you believe that you can follow. And I think that's what is the most important thing. You always want to know that somebody before has done it and you can follow that. So I think, a couple of the questions coming in are very similar to that in terms of, I have young children, do they take up sport, what can they do? So I think just 2 points I want to touch upon, because we keep getting emails. And in fact, I received an email a few years ago from someone saying that I have a 2-year-old daughter and she's going to become the next Olympic champion. And how do we plan her career? And I mean, I was actually shocked, because it's great that parents are so excited, but 2 years, I mean, that kid might be so upset that why are you pushing me into, an Olympic challenge? Because they also say that up to the age of 13, you should play as many number of sports
as you can.
From a physical literacy perspective, and then choose your sport. But I think, like your topic in terms of She for Gold, I think means so much more. One is just play, but one is confidence, one is the ability to deal with people, one is managing failures, successes. So I think sport teaches you
all of that. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
So I feel like a lot of those questions are overlapping. Some addressed to some other panelists, so I'll let you take it.
I have a barrage of questions. So in fact, I'm also just collating 4 or 5 and putting those points across so that they get answered. But a very pertinent point that you made, right? That it's not an India problem. I mean, if you look at the Khelo India Youth Games, the platform that the government or the Sports Authority of India has floated, or the Khelo India University Games as recent as, the last 2-3 years now. And we've seen equal participation from men and women, even at the national level. I mean, if you see, these numbers are almost there. So it's most definitely, that myth out there that it's an India problem. It is not an India problem. It is the message that we are trying to deliver out here is to say that, women matter. They are, they have some amazing capabilities. And, as Vita Ben also said, that multitasking, I mean, I can't put one book and look at the screen at the same time right now that I'm doing a webinar. But yes, that multitasking becomes so crucial to kind of do that. That's really more than anything else. Is more about motivating and putting that positive message out there and letting them know that there's this entire world that exists, and men need to take cognizance of the fact that yes, there is going to be that power, and there's going to be a completely different angle that is going to be coming out of the thought processes of the way a woman thinks. So I mean, that's what I mean, and that kind of leads me to something that Anna Arpit has asked, saying that have you ever dealt with a legal issue for a woman in the sports domain, and was there any politics that was encountered or anything of that sort? I mean, I thought I'd throw it out to you if you have any real world experiences there.
Done a few back in the day when I was not on the disciplinary panel of national doping, disciplinary panel, but when I used to sort of argue on behalf of athletes, I have certainly defended some female athletes out there. But having said that, I mean, I've been, fortunate to work on projects where we emphasize more on equality than looking at it from a gender perspective. So like Vitama mentioned, right, UTT has a policy where there's equal number of games given to both male athletes and female athletes, right? So both paddlers get like equal amount of games in a particular day or whatever. So likewise, I mean, recently I was a part of the racing league that concluded in 2019. So that was, that took it a step further, wherein cars and women are just not associated with each other, but they made sure that there was one female driver in each competition, which I thought was a really interesting initiative from their part, because it was the first time in the world that women and men were competing in a franchise-based league. So I mean, largely the policies are the same. You have a zero tolerance policy towards any kind of sexual offenses or sexual harassment. We of course, anything that may sort of bring disrepute to the league, we don't entertain that. So if even prior to the league initiating, if there has been an episode, you don't get to participate, we immediately send out termination notices and things like that for athletes. So I think also because the world is moving more towards an LGBTQ friendly environment, I think there should be equal protection given to both men and women, and just look at it from a women perspective.
Yes,
so I think so I don't look at it as let's do this from only women perspective, or let's go out of your way, because at the end of the day, as an athlete, you're supposed to be mentally strong, right? So as a mentally strong person, you should be able to deal with an issue at hand efficiently, rather than looking at it because she's a woman, she might need extra attention. If there's a problem, come report it, we'll deal with it.
Correct.
I'm just coming in there. I just feel it's also, we're all very fortunate to be in a position of privilege. So it is, something that a lot of times we've not really experienced a lot of things that probably athletes from very humble backgrounds experience. It's probably even daily food and livelihood issues. And to fight all of that and then come on top. So I think it's very different challenges. And I think as a girl, even as basic as don't go into the sun, you'll get dark, and who's going to get married to you is also a big concern, right? And it is very prevalent in very lot of communities and areas. I'm not going to name anything, but it is there everywhere. So I think there are such battles to be fought even before finding the talent who has potential and to take them forward. So but I also feel, just the point that Anna mentioned, that while it's about equality, just experiences and backgrounds that each one of us come from, today, at least in this panel, I believe are from a privileged lot. So it would be very, very different. So just the last 8 years for me working with differently abled athletes and able-bodied athletes, you realize that a large part of them are actually from very, very, very humble backgrounds, where they played sport because they got food, and they got something over there. That is why they played sport. It was not the other way around. So I just feel that's something for us to keep that context when we talk about girls and giving them support and nurturing them. That's something to also keep in mind apart from what she has said.
Correct. A very young footballer, a school footballer, Priyanka has asked me a question, saying that, if I go to Corvus Academy, will I get to be a part of the Chennai FC team? I'm like, okay, I have to put it out there for, both Diksha and Vita Ben to answer it. I can't, but yeah. So that's how much people are already thinking and aspiring, so.
I would
Diksha.
if you come to Corvus American Academy and Mrs. Vita Dani wants to take you for Chennai FC, 100%
Yeah.
make it happen.
Wow.
I think already we're seeing, and I'll let Mrs. Dani answer that, but already we're seeing that this has motivated girls, an 8-year-old girl enough to now she's already thinking, okay, I want to play for Chennai FC. So
Yeah, that's what, that's just amazing. Zita Ben, your last closing thoughts to this webinar, as we've come to the end of time for now.
Sure.
But yes.
So we at Chennai FC really like to bet on young talent, young people, and we don't go for big names. I remember about 3 years ago, we signed 5 players, and one of them was under 18. The rest were under 19.
Yeah.
We used to have issues, getting visas for him because he was a minor, so we had to get parents' forms and all sorts of things. So, and out of these 5, 2 of them are in the national team today. So it's with great pride that I say that we really bet on young talent, and we are very, very happy to bet on young girls as well. We have so far almost 50,000 children in our grassroots program.
Wow.
And if they are good, we are more than happy to absorb them in our ecosystem.
Yes.
And anyway, there's a huge shift in this whole, paradigm.
I think,
I think it's frozen.
Yeah.
All I would.
Do you want to give some last thoughts? We have 1 minute left. I will play moderator.
I think all the youngsters should not give up. They should give their very best to make sure that they can really make a difference to our country, and that's what it's all about. At the end of it, no matter where we are from, what we do, we'll all say we are proud Indians. So that's what it's all about for me. It's the Tiranga that matters. Like as you said, Deepti, what matters is when the national anthem plays.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
and that's why Ab Jeetega India is also in Tiranga color.
Yes. I think fabulous closing thoughts, ma'am, to say that eventually what matters to all of us stakeholders of sport, and obviously women in sport, is what happens and what we do with the nation. And I think that's what eventually will make us proud. And all of us, I think, wear our hearts on our sleeve when we talk about kids and sport. So I think, ma'am, great closing thoughts there. And thank you each one of you, Diksha, Anna, Vaidehi, Deepti, and ma'am for being present on this webinar. And hopefully looking forward to having many more interactions and conversations in future, not only with limited topics, but with as much as we can do, like you said, for our country. So, Ab Jeetega India, ma'am.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.